All right, everybody. Welcome back to another week here on the Whiskeyed Gingers podcast with special guest. He's not a ginger, but he loves whiskey, Joey Meatballs. Joey, welcome to the cast, buddy.
How are we doing? Thanks for having me. It's an honor.
We had too much Irish in the mix, so we had to add a little Italian in the mix.
Yeah, exactly.
We had to get Jersey involved. He didn't want to put out his legal government name. There's some agencies out there keeping an eye on his whereabouts. So, for all intents and purposes, he's Joey Meatballs this evening.
That's how we do things in North Jersey. So,
yeah. But the reason we have Joe on, if you guys have been listening to the podcast for a little while, Joe's kind of become a character in this world we've created because he's always the one hooking me up with, the whiskey merch. Sometimes I'll show off, or these different whiskeys. And I got a buddy who hooked me up with these. This has been him the whole time. Joe's been the one that's been hooking us up with the Eagle Rare. He got me those whiskey old-fashioned mixers, which, by the way, not Sazerac's finest work. We're being honest here. But yeah, pretty much anything cool that we've kind of been able to do, it's a little bit one-off. The Buffalo Trace was from Joe also.
Amazing.
That's kind of been the guy behind the free whiskey hookup. So it's great to have you on camera this time and live and in person.
I love the fact that I've now become
applause for Joe.
Yeah.
I love that I've now become a guy. That's cool. Like I always say, I got a guy for that, I got a guy for that. I'm a guy for something. That's cool.
You've become larger than life now, Joe. That's there's really no going back now. Those agencies are going to have a harder time keeping you under protection because you're going to be so big now after all this.
Yeah, and with how popular this podcast has gotten, I mean, there's literally tens of people who have heard of you now.
There's no telling how far this could go.
It's way more than before. So.
All right. Well, I don't want to keep burying the lead because we brought Joe here for a very special purpose. We couldn't call on too many other people to join us in drinking the whiskey that we're going to be drinking tonight because not too many people have it in their personal collection. But I knew Joe did, and Chris just acquired some. So without further ado, tonight's whiskey that we're reviewing is none other Blanton's. Now, you might have thought there's no way Chris and I are ever going to do a whiskey this nice. We didn't either. We didn't buy this. It was a gift, as things typically are on this podcast. But we couldn't be more excited to try it. And Joe already has himself a glass of Blanton's poured. So we're the ones kind of lagging behind at the moment.
So, yeah, I mean, it comes in this beautiful case. I mean, first of all, they come in boxes to begin with. It's like super lock and key. For those of you that don't know, which I'm sure most of the people that watch us do, it's difficult to get Blanton's. And I'd say it's definitely on the pricier side of stuff that we've reviewed here for sure, if not the most expensive thing we've reviewed. But really, it's the rarity of getting it is the trick, not necessarily the price tag. So it comes in this really nice, like, velvety case here. So I have not opened it out of this case yet. I wanted to save all of the opening for this. I don't know how tricky it's going to be in general.
On camera. Now,
yeah.
Joe, you pull your bottle up because yours has a bit of a different case on it. It looks like,
yeah. So I didn't have a
like
sleeve.
that too.
Yeah, the sleeve I have is up in the thing, but it really depends. Like when I went, I feel like it was this bottle when I got it. The guy, it was like the manager I knew, like from working there. He wanted to just make sure I got all the fixins on it, so he took this one off another bottle and put it on mine because it's like,
oh, nice.
Not all of them have it. I don't really know why, but it's just like an extra thing, makes it look a little cooler. It's really.
I'm returning this one. It didn't come with it.
So is
I got
the status thing, kind of like is that elevated? If you have a regular bottle of Blanton's and like a netted bottle of Blanton's, are there levels to this?
There's no levels. No. It's literally just like some of the bottles had it, some of it didn't, and my boy just wanted to make sure I have one that had it. My boy Karoop. So
Joe's is selling for $10 more than mine because of the netting.
Yeah,
exactly.
Joe's got the better resale.
Fun fact on these too, I'm sure Joe knows this as well, but every one of these bottle tops here has like a letter on it that if you collect them all spells Blanton. So that's kind of the shtick behind it is that you want to try and collect them. I can't see myself buying 15 of these to try and.
Do you know what letter you have?
I have N,
Joe,
if I'm not mistaken.
So I have an O, and then I have in my cabinet, I think it's a T is my other one. So I'm getting there. So the cool thing about that is you collect all of them. And you could send them down to the distillery. And the collecting is really cool. You could send them all to the distillery and they'll send them back to you on like a nice little case for you.
Cool.
Free of charge. obviously you would have spent a bunch of money on the whiskey itself.
Well,
My
But
question,
you
I
see-
guess, is go ahead.
Yeah, so the way it all works is you spent a lot of money on that bottle, but like the Blanton's distillery itself is not seeing as much of that money just because it's obviously so highly marked up when these stores sell it,
Yeah.
right? So the stores are still buying it for like $25-$30, and the suppliers that they're getting it from are buying it for even cheaper, or the distributors they're getting it from are buying it for even less than that. So the distillery itself is not seeing as much of those profits as you might think. But those little mom and pop shops are seeing some nice profits from those bottles. So
I'm sure they are.
oh, yeah.
yeah, but
Downtown
if you
liquor
send it to the
all
distillery,
over.
they'll set it back in a nice case, and that makes it even cooler.
Well, I want to talk about that a little bit more, but without keeping ourselves waiting here because I'm feeling a little parched. I feel like we should crack this open. I don't know if this has any other type of seal on it. I don't think it does, and I feel like I'm going to break this.
Hey, Joe, how do we open this thing?
Does it literally just pop right off, or am I going to break something?
There might
Oh,
be some
look,
wrapping
okay.
on it.
Oh, there is.
There we go.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like a little
oh my
twisting,
God,
right?
I'm going to break this thing.
Yeah, it looks like it's connected, though.
There we go. All right.
All right.
I don't think this is going to cork that nice.
I think it will. No.
That's
Pretty
okay.
quiet up bottling, but that's all right, Blends. That's okay.
We'll give them a pass on that one.
We're very easy to please, so the louder the pop, we usually grade the whiskey on that. That's like a criteria.
Negative
hate it.
10 out of 10.
If the cap sounds cool, it counts.
It's all about the aesthetic.
This is an exciting experience for us over here, and we're going to enjoy it thoroughly.
So, Joe, are you? I forget. Are you neat?
No, I always have a little bit of ice. This
Okay,
one I
so
like
we
the
have-
big cube, but
Okay, so we have 2 rocks and 1 neat, so we'll get a good sense of how things are looking.
cool.
Looks good to me. I
right.
definitely want to talk more about the Blantons in general, but without further ado, let's stop ourselves from being parched.
Slancha and salute.
Cheers. What do you think?
It's so hard to review these kind of things because it tastes great, but it's like it tastes really, really good. But you're almost expecting to like fall out of your chair.
I kind of was actually myself too. I was thinking like this is going to be the best whiskey I've ever had, and admittedly, it is delicious. It's really good.
It's really good whiskey.
Certainly high quality. And it's really funny because I'll address the elephant in the room. I still prefer Eagle Rare.
Yeah, even within Sazerac products, I think I still like Eagle Rare.
Yep.
I
This
agree.
is delicious.
Yeah,
I
it's not
agree.
a knock against Blanton's either.
So yeah, the thing is, like with the blends, you get a little bit higher of like the rye. They put a little bit more rye in it than they would in the other mash bills. So there's mash bill 1 that has like the Buffalo Trace, the Eagle Rare, and that's like definitely like a little bit less rye. I think it's like 10 to 12%, and this one you're gonna get like 15 to 16% rye. So you'll get like a little bit more spiciness. Like Blanton's, I wouldn't make a cocktail with Blanton's just because it doesn't really mix as well. But Buffalo Trace and Eagle Rare really do. So like, just depends on what you like, really. Like I prefer Eagle Rare too.
Are you going to ask the same thing?
What was I going to ask?
Is there something we've talked about? We might have been on the same wavelength. There's something in
Mhm.
the podcast we talk about, and there's drinking whiskeys and mixing
Yep.
whiskeys.
Yeah.
I, in my head, never considered mixing Blanton's. I never mix Eagle Rare. For us, we've always talked about your mixing whiskeys as like your 5 to 6 out of 10 quality whiskeys. Do you subscribe to that, or will you mix anything?
So honestly, whiskey is like whatever your taste buds prefer. I'm not going to judge you. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, like maybe I wouldn't mix Blanton's with like Coke, but like it all depends on what you like. That's really what I say. Like Buffalo Trace, I could sip or I can make it with an old fashioned. Mix it with whatever you want. That's kind of what I think. Like, say, like sometimes people will be like, for example, he's drinking it with no ice. I'm drinking it with ice. It's just what we prefer. So, like, whatever's going to make you experience that. You spend a lot of money on that whiskey. Whatever's going to make you prefer it more, that's what I say go for.
I think if I'm going to mix it with Coke, I want like one of those 1950s old-fashioned $300 somebody like saved in their basement for years bottle of Cokes to complement the Blantons. I think that would do it for me. Yeah, like something really fancy. Otherwise, I feel like I couldn't do it. And I think a lot of whiskeys in this price point just do stand on their own really well. To your point, Joe, you could certainly mix it. It's your whiskey. You're paying for it. You do whatever you want. But I think for me, I would have a hard time justifying putting something in this.
Yeah, and I think Joe kind of hit a good middle point where when I think of mixing, it's like a whiskey ginger, or it's something in Coke or whatever. I almost, but you made it interesting because I think an old fashioned's elevated to a point where if someone offered me a Blanton's old fashioned, I don't think I would have the same reaction as a whiskey ginger with Blanton's.
Well, you still get a lot of the whiskey flavor in an old fashioned. Like if you make an old fashioned with Buffalo Trace versus Old Forester or something, I can definitely tell the difference in which old fashioned I'm drinking. So I think that with a Blanton's old fashioned, it'd be delicious. You would definitely know.
Yeah.
But I get Joe's point about the rye. Like I definitely taste the rye coming out on this a lot more than I would have tasted it in the Eagle Rare, and I kind of like that actually about it. I do like the rye flavor.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. You get a little more spice. It's not bad.
Yeah, it's different enough. I mean, it doesn't taste like Eagle Rare, which for 3 people who adore Eagle Rare is why we kind of like it a little bit better. But I'm also glad that it isn't just a carbon copy because you would want Blanton's for the higher price point to be a little bit different.
So I have to ask you, Joe, you were talking about how you have 2 letters in your collection. How many bottles did you have to get those 2 letters? Did you get any copies, or was that just generic? Like, you got 2 and it just so happened that there were 2 different ones.
Yeah. So it just happened to be 2 separate ones. The second one, I guess it kind of was, like I wasn't really thinking about it at the time. Like the first one I bought was to just have one nice bottle in my cabinet down the shore for me and my friend's shore house. We were like, let's just get one nice bottle. We'll break it out when we're just hanging out. And that was kind of the point. And then I bought this other bottle later on. I wasn't even thinking about the letters. And then I was like, oh my God, I have to make sure I didn't get 2 of the same letters. And then I noticed it. But you would think I would have been more proactive about that. I was not.
Yeah, I guess it's something you could easily forget about, but I think that's cool in general. That's awesome that you got 2 different letters. I guess my point was, I wonder how many people spend time, because really, I guess it is luck of the draw, but like, I wonder how many people buy 50 bottles to get all of the letters, or is it so common that you can get it pretty quickly?
Well, I mean, just mathematically, I'm sure once you're 7, 8, 9 letters deep, you run that risk.
Yeah, no, for sure.
You got to drive around and find it.
But a lot more people go in asking for certain letters than you think. I promise you.
Can you even do that though?
Because so they'll open up the box and check the letter for you if they really. That's the thing. So if you're a lot of times, especially in North Jersey, because they're not getting a lot of these nice bourbons. These guys are selling the bourbons to their A-list like customers. Like these customers that come in all the time, they buy all their stuff, so they're gonna know, like they're gonna tell the liquor store owner, hey, I'm looking for a B. Hey, I'm looking for an L, like something like that. And they'll wait until they get that B or that L. And it's very important to some of these people. Like me, I don't think I'll be – it'll just be one of those things that like it'll be cool if by the time I'm like 30, 35, it's like, oh, wow, now I have all the letters. That's pretty cool. But it's not something I'm looking to do in the next 2 years. You know what I mean? It's going to be a little expensive.
Yeah. That would be hard to justify, I suppose. But no, I appreciate that. That makes a lot of sense to me. Maybe one day I'll see it. I think my timeline's probably a little bit further out than Joe's. 30 is unfortunately too close for me to make that mark. But I'll make it work. But in general, I thought it was really funny that the whole Blanton's ideology kind of sparked something else for me to think about. I was telling Brandon before we got started, but I didn't want to talk about it too much without you because I thought it'd be a fun talking point. Was we do like a Let's Drink About It segment here, and we just talk about all different things that we want to talk about. It doesn't have to be anything in specific. And what I was talking about is the Blanton's bottle has such a cool design to it when you get all the packaging and stuff, and it makes me think about when we were younger and we saw all these cool toys and stuff and collectibles that turned into collectibles that we didn't know about. I didn't save the package for any of that stuff. I don't know if you ran into anything like that growing up where you were like, after the fact, noticed, oh, I probably should have saved that package, or I probably should have kept that a little bit safer. It became a collectible.
Yeah. Before we move on to the next segment, I want to address some of our fan comments. A gentleman by the name of Michael Napoli. Are there more letters made than others, or do you have the same odds at getting any given letter? Joe, I think that's directed at you.
Completely random. I don't think there's a more likely letter, less likely letter. I'm pretty sure it's random.
I would hope so. I mean, it could be where they could just really like to mess with people and
there's like a ton of B's.
Yeah, start putting a ton of B's in there.
They really
Yeah,
could.
great
I mean, that's the thing. It's so rare. People aren't going to be picky about it. If a lot of people, if they can get their hands on a bottle of Bland's, they'll get it. I was at a liquor store back in Verona with my dad, and we saw, they have a few bottles of Bland's. I didn't really need one. I have one here. They were also charging way too much for it, if we're being honest. And he texted his friends, and two of them went over and bought a bottle. Like, some people just doesn't really matter what letter it is. They just like to have it in their liquor cabinet, like to sip on it, and it might be more just like to tell their friends that they have it.
Good for them. More power to them.
Yeah, it's a status thing. But yeah, I didn't mean to derail you too long, Chris. I want to make sure we got to all the things.
No, you're good. Hey, I mean, I appreciate Andy writing in, and Mike, that was a great question. I appreciate you putting it in.
Yeah, thanks, Nat.
Yeah.
Speaking of status things, Joe, did it make it to the Italian community or the North Jersey community? Did your parents treat Hess trucks like a retirement fund also?
I got like a few of them when I was younger, but it wasn't like I got them every single year. Like, I know people that would get them every single year. It wasn't. I don't think it was as big up by us. Maybe it was. Maybe I just missed the boat on it. But I remember getting a few of them when I was younger.
It was definitely big in Central Jersey because I got it for every Christmas. I got a Hess truck.
Same, and it was treated like, now don't play with these. These are going to be worth something later. And
it wasn't treated like that.
Thousands of them at a gas station.
No, it was like
funny,
it was basically, you need to treat this and put it in a safety deposit box because one day this is going to pay for your kids to go to college.
It was like the Ark of the Covenant to like white trash Italian like Irish families.
It might as well have been a bond.
Yeah.
Literally, it might as well have been a bond in like my parents' eyes. And honestly, they are cool.
They're
But
awesome. Mine are still in mint condition because I wasn't allowed to play with them.
I definitely played with them. That's funny.
Yeah, it was. As a kid, it was such a messed up Christmas gift. Like, as I got older, I got the idea behind it. But like, when you're 5 or 6 and someone gives you like the coolest fire truck you've ever seen, and then go, yeah, well, look, we're gonna put this over here and you can't have it. Like, that was kind of fucked up Christmas.
I wish I knew how profitable and competitive the like retro video game collecting was going to get, because I have so many Nintendo games and Super Nintendo games, but without like the instruction manuals in the box, because back in the day you literally just threw that out as soon as you got the game. Why would you ever need any of that extra stuff? So I don't have any of that, but I mean, I have the games and they're in pretty good condition, but I mean, the collection and the sale of them would go up through the roof if I had the packaging.
Yeah, GameStop might give you like $6.50.
Yeah, 1 cent.
Yeah.
What a racket that GameStop was with that. You'd be like, yeah, I'm going to go buy the new console at GameStop and I'll trade in my entire old system and 500 games. And they're like, yeah, that's really good for $50.
Yeah, dude. They were running like a money laundering operation. Place.
Pretty much.
Well, like I remember getting the new sports games. Like, my mom would be like, I'll get it for you, or like, I'll help you, I'll give you some money for it, but you have to trade in the one from last year to help towards it.
Meant nothing.
Turns out, like, when I traded in NCAA 13 and NCAA 14, NCAA 13 is now worth a ton of money, whether it's got the instruction book or not. And I'm like, Mom.
That's horrible.
What's up?
Because they made it another year. Like, I wonder why. But you're right. Like, all my buddies in college had 13. And that's the one that stood the test of time.
I don't know why. But I had 14, but I was like, why do I have to trade in 13? My mom's like, well, I'm not going to give you the extra $20 you need to get it. Because I couldn't work back then. I was too young. So they were like, Mom was like, if you trade it in, I'll help you pay for it. I'm like, all right. But I should have kept it because now it's worth all this money.
You should have listened to Gary Vee and hit some yard sales, or just had that hustler mentality at a young age.
I guess I wasn't looking into my future when I was in 8th grade.
You weren't putting your 401k and your portfolio together at that age.
Yeah.
I wasn't buying property when I was playing pee-wee football.
You got to start them young, That's how it works.
Yeah, exactly.
The funniest part about the GameStop thing is, like, to increase their racket, in order to get more money for your trade, I think you could get like a premium membership, like you'd get that premium card or whatever. But I think you had to pay for that. That wasn't like that wasn't a free subscription. It was crazy. So it's like, hey, give us money monthly, and then we'll maybe pass along some savings to you on the trade. It's like, I'm paying more to have the membership than you're going to give me on my next trade-in. Yeah, so it's like, how is this helpful?
You're $120 a year in the hole to GameStop for the membership, and that might get you an extra $3 on a trade-in.
Oh my gosh, it's wild.
I mean, like I was a little kid and I wasn't great at math. I went to a public school in Pennsylvania, but I could still figure that out.
Something's not adding up here.
Yeah, no. That's why when that whole thing was going on, I mean, people were making money, but there's this big thing about save GameStop from getting shorted and all these great memories. I was kind of like, fuck GameStop.
Yeah.
They took advantage of me so often as a kid. I'll buy my games on Xbox Live or whatever, like a normal person.
That's crazy. I mean, I remember I was like so sad. I needed money at one point and I sold like my PlayStation 2 and a bunch of my games. And then I wanted to get another one years down the line. And you would think with most things being old that the price would dramatically drop down. And instead it's like stayed pretty consistent. Like a refurbished PS2 is still about $200 to buy. So I said, this is ridiculous. I don't want to buy this and all the games that I got rid of. So it was like such a big mistake at the time, and then I'm paying the price for it now. But by the time I go to get one that's cheap, it's going to be a piece of parts that's not even worth anything.
Joe, did you keep any of your old systems? Like, do you still have a PS2 laying around or a PSP or anything like that?
So I was an Xbox kid, so I still have the 360. I just don't have it set up here. I think it's in Verona. But I still have the 360, still have the Wii. That's also in Verona. Anything before that, I think got traded in. Like we had a GameCube, but unfortunately that got traded in. And I wish I never traded in because that'd be so cool to have now. Like I think I traded it in to get some stuff for the Wii, thinking like at that time that was a smart idea. But like now having a GameCube would have been pretty cool.
You can certain versions of the Wii. You can still play GameCube games on them. They actually fit right into the.
I have one
cartridge.
inside.
Yeah.
You can still play GameCube on.
God, I would smash some like Wii bowling lately, or like I haven't played any Wii sports games in the longest time, but I feel like that would go really hard.
Dude, Brandon knows when he was up here in January, my girlfriend got me a Nintendo Switch.
Awesome.
Dude, the Nintendo Switch is something else. It is awesome. Like we're playing golf, we're playing bowling. I don't know if Mike's still on here. Mike bowled like a 279 on Switch bowling the other day. It's ridiculous.
I wish somebody would have gotten a picture while we were golfing because there's like ample seating arrangements and we're indoors playing Switch golf and you have 5 grown-ass men standing up analyzing the course, cheering each other on. Like it was pretty sick.
Somebody's checking the wind, trying to see what it's like.
I have a picture. You might be able to show it on here. Wait. I definitely do have a picture of it somewhere. Continue talking.
Like the 5 friends that all went abroad together. Like,
oh, that's so funny.
We all started sitting down. Then, like Joe hit a crazy shot. It was like an albatross or some shit.
Yeah.
And then I got everybody up the first time, and then we were like 7-8 holes down the line, and nobody's sitting. One guy's going like, okay, look, the green slope a little bit to the left, but if you play the wind just right, you're gonna get over the trees.
You guys became like Tiger Woods instantly in that moment.
We started taking it so seriously for 5 guys, Joe lives in like one of those like converted garage apartments that like a lot of people in like North Jersey have.
Yep.
So we're all crammed in there like we're on Torrey Pines.
I have the picture.
It's pretty sick. Oh, man. Somebody should have captured that for guys being dudes.
I got it. So look at this. You guys see it? We're all just standing around. You can't really see what's on the TV, but it's us just playing golf on the Switch.
That's hysterical.
And we're like watching. Yeah, we're checking the winds, and we're like, I was like, we got to make a whole day out of this. I'm like, we'll make some transfusions. We'll get all dressed up, and we'll just play golf all day when it's like raining out.
It's a lot of fun.
It's tea time.
Yeah. The indoor tea time.
The indoor tea time. That's hysterical.
And we had like shit to do. We were going to like a really famous pizzeria, like a really famous bar. And we were like, well, we could leave now, but we didn't finish the round yet.
No.
So we put the day on hold to make sure we finished Switch golf.
I feel like most of the day, like the weather wasn't great. Like it was really cold that day, right? And it was like, I don't want to just go. I didn't want to just go walk around the city. So I was like, let's just hang out here until we go out. Great way to pass the time.
I have to tell you, those modern Nintendo style games, I feel like hit harder now for me than they did when I was a kid. It's like when Wii Sports came out, I didn't really enjoy it. It like came with the Wii, and I said, whatever, like I have this, maybe I'll play some bowling or whatever when I'm bored. But like the fact that I get together with my friends now and have a couple beers and play Wii bowling is next level. That's like so classic entertainment. It aged so well for that. Like it's so old, but it's so good.
And there's certain Wii games that age better than I was like, Wii Sports, you're right, is timeless.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys had it when the Wii was kicking, but I had Mario Super Sluggers. Dude, go back and play that one. That is one of the most fun replays ever. I mean,
that might be one of the best games, period, ever. Like,
yeah.
That game was awesome.
This might be a little bit before both of your guys' time, but I remember a really great computer game that I used to play all the time was Backyard Baseball.
Oh, yeah.
You guys had that loaded
Oh,
up?
yeah, that
was a tank.
If I could play that on like on a screen with all my friends while having beers, it would be the best day ever. Like we would set that up out here and like have some beers and just hang out. That would be a hell of a day.
Backyard Baseball and Backyard Football went so hard.
Yeah, they did. It was so
I tell you what, like the Switch, I'm sure they're coming up with all these new games and like that's cool, but like just run it back. Just make the old ones. That's all we want.
I'm usually not for that, but in like Nintendo's library, I'm all for it. And think about it, it's a successful business model. They've been doing it for years. Mario Kart, Mario Party, it's the same game year after year after year, and it sells millions.
So I don't know if you guys listen to the New Heights podcast. I mean, I do because I'm an Eagle fan, but Jason Kelsey, and he just got Chris Long on board, former defensive end for the Eagles and the Patriots. They're looking to buy the rights to Backyard Football and reproduce it.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be
So
great.
I think it'd be a PC game, but it would still go so hard.
Yeah, but you could probably run it on like a toaster because it's such an old game, even if they repurposed it, that you could run it on like a tablet and it would be fine.
The code on that has got to be so simple, but it was perfect. I'm trying to think of what other like old PC games. Like I think one that always sticks out was Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Oh, definitely.
That was like the original like Minecraft-y kind of vibe.
Just build a roller coaster that people are going to die on instantly.
I slaughtered so many people by that. I wanted to see how high I could take the G's before somebody fell off. Like it was so twisted.
No, that was big back in the day. I mean, Sims was huge growing up, obviously.
I never got into it.
Sims was fun. Zoo Tycoon was fun. All those games were fun. I mean, there was a lot of would you choose the PSP, Game Boy, or DS? That's a great question.
Yeah, it's another great one posed by Mike Knapp. If you had your choice, PSP, the Game Boy, or the DS, what are you rocking with, Joe?
So I didn't have a PSP, so we can automatically eliminate that one. That's like technically the DS is a better like console. It was newer. But something about the Game Boy, man. It was probably like the first, like technically probably the first console, like one of the first consoles I ever had. So I'd probably have to rock with Game Boy. I have a pretty tragic story about my Game Boy though. I lost it in the airport when I was in like second grade, and I was like, I don't think I ever like mentally recovered from that. I think we could probably trace a lot of my issues back to that.
A lot of my attachment issues started that day in Newark Airport.
Yeah, gosh.
And we never got it back. Like, God bless my parents. Like, they were calling the airports. They were calling Orlando. They were calling Newark. And just, that thing was not – those things were small, dude. Like, that was not popping up.
Wait, before we move on.
They had the government's top generals looking for it.
Yeah,
before we move on, I have a
Frank
really
Truppi had some people on the horn.
SEAL Team 6 was deployed.
I think the only place where it was harder to get items that you lost than the airport would be, and I don't know if this like resonates with you guys, was when something fell out of your pocket at Six Flags on a roller coaster, and it's like sitting on the ground in front of you, and you can't get to it. You literally can't get to it, and security's like, yeah, no, we can't get that until the park closed, and then they never call you ever again for your stuff that you lost.
Yeah,
that's tragic.
That happened to a kid in Wildwood where he dropped a hat under one of the roller coasters where like you're strapped in and your legs dangle.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you've been to Wildwood, you know, OSHA's a recommendation, safety's a recommendation, all the fences move.
Yeah.
The kid went back for his hat and got his head kicked off.
Oh my gosh.
So
yeah,
there was a very good reason.
I'm not saying that, you know, they should do whatever, but you would almost think it's like, could they stop the ride for like 30 seconds to let somebody go get like the security going to get there?
New Jersey.
Yeah.
Are you keeping those people waiting for any longer than you need to?
I know, 10-hour lines for like a 5.
Have you seen those people in Wildwood?
Yeah, exactly. Everybody's half trashed. They're running out of Newports. Like, people are pissed.
Gosh.
We're getting back to the question at hand. I actually had all three. But for me, I think the PSP was so ahead of its time. Like the
Way
other two
ahead.
were good for me to kill a little bit of time. Like you could keep me busy for an hour and a half or so with the Game Boy, maybe 2 with a DS. But like I could play MLB The Show on the PSP. I could play like Need for Speed on PSP.
It was
Like
cool.
you could give me that, and just my parents could go do whatever the hell they wanted. I was going to be just fine. So for me, I think it's the PSP.
You could download movies on the PSP. You could
Yeah.
do music on the PSP. Like I thought it was really cool, honestly.
It was almost like having like an iPad before iPads were a thing, or like something.
You're
Like
right.
exactly.
I just
you're
never had one.
100% right.
Yeah, it's a smaller screen, but you're right, Chris. Well, I know you're a little bit ahead of both Joe and I. So where did that hit you in your gamer curve?
Yeah, I mean, like originally, I remember playing the original Game Boy, like where you literally needed in the car, you couldn't play it because the glare from the window was too bad. I had these attachments.
Was that the big, like oval one?
Yeah, it was the big gray chunky one was the original one. It had a green screen on it with no backlight or anything. It wasn't mine. It was my sister. She passed it down to me. And when I got that thing, I was like in love with it. I thought it was the coolest system on the planet, but it had so many limitations that you needed this attachment that you clipped onto it. You put this thing on life support. It had a magnifying glass with a light on it. And that would allow you to basically get a backlit screen. So that way you could play it, in the dark or, in the car or whatever. You'd have these crazy headphone attachments. I mean, I go back all the way with that Game Boy. I really enjoyed all of them. The Game Boy SP was my favorite Game Boy of that. That's the one that flipped open like a flip phone. And that was because it had a backlight. So I really enjoyed that. And I played probably my most nostalgic games on that. But I think I agree with you. I mean, like the PSP, I felt like a G when I was walking around with that thing. It was so cool. And not many people had it, I feel like. So if you had the PSP, it was like an event to like bring that somewhere. Yeah. It came with cool carrying cases and stuff. And I happen to enjoy the whole PlayStation library at the time. So I think that, PlayStation Portable is the way to go. I wish they'd make another one, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know how you do it now because, I mean, I don't know. I just don't know how you do it now. It's one of those things that just because like we have a PSP in our hands 24/7 every day.
That's the tricky part. Yeah.
So how do you recreate it? But I promise I only paid for Joe's media availability for a half an hour, and he's been gracious enough to give us 33 minutes. So we're gonna wrap it up here for this week's edition of the Whiskey Gingers plus Joey Meatballs. Thank you everybody for listening. Shout out to Sazerac for the hookup on the whiskey, probably one last time. And Chris and I will see you again in 2 weeks. And I don't think this is going to be the last episode that we see Joey Meatballs on. So stay tuned for that in the future.
Thanks for having me. I mean, I'm down to come on anytime.
You heard it from the man himself. Well, I'll get in touch with his people. We'll work something out.
Yeah, don't contact me directly. You know
that. Yeah. I'll get a hold of Assistant Lamberti and figure something out. But yeah, Joe, thanks so much for coming on, man. This was awesome.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
See you guys next time.